Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to Night Shift. Eric Lopez here. We'll be joined by Bryson Turner momentarily. Coming up, we're going to recap UCF's 20-14 disappointing loss to the Louisville Cardinals. We'll hope to hear from Gus Malzahn in the press conference. We'll also hear, hopefully, from Kyle Nash from the stadium and his reaction to this game. Of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and like also get all the streams and post-game coverage from all the UCF sports right here on Black and Go Banneret. Of course, you can follow us on Black and Go Banneret. Bryson, where can they find us on Black and Go Banneret Twitter?
They can find me at
not you, the Black and Go Banneret.
Oh, at UCF Banneret _ SBN. Sorry, I thought you had already said the Twitter account name.
I'm trying to get you warmed up.
I'm sorry if my mind went off a little bit. I'm just trying to make heads or tails of this dang game.
Yeah, it's a tough one to swallow. There's just no other way of sugarcoating it, folks. UCF lost 20-14. We will take your comments. We are going to take your questions. I know there is a lot of upset people. We're going to try to address all of the issues and all the topics as best as we can. Of course, blackandgobanneret.com is where you, of course, follow all the UCF's coverage sports. Andrew Glukoff is at the game. He'll be writing his knee-jerk reaction. Boy, that's going to be a must-read. I have a feeling Kyle Nash is out there at the stadium, too. Like I said, hopefully he'll join us after the press conferences are concerned. We'll have photos up there. We'll have coverage of all the other sports coming up, including UCF volleyball and big match this weekend against Miami. Bryson was there at volleyball against UNC Wilmington. Hey, we got that going for us. But anyway, let's not waste any more time here, folks, and we'll get your questions right up. But Bryson, this was a frustrating game to watch in a lot of levels. I thought UCF controlled the game in the first half, and I thought the game turned on the missed field goal. UCF should have been up multiple scores. They weren't. Obarski misses a chip shot, 30-plus yard field goal. You just kept Louisville hanging around, and then Louisville kind of controlled the line of scrimmage in the second half. You look at the stats, and we have it up there right now. Louisville ended up rushing for 226 yards. Neither team really, I thought, did much on the passing game, but Malik Cunningham just made enough plays, ran for $121, threw for $195, and they were able. It wasn't the prettiest of games. UCF had some costly penalties, a couple that took away big scores for them in this game. This was a sloppy game, and it's a disappointment. There's just no other way of looking at it. This team has got some issues. They got to work on the offensive line. Has got some question marks. I know everybody's going to get on John Rice Plumlee and some of his throws. I think there's questions with the special teams, and you can't leave a team hanging around. And I think UCF did that, Bryson, and it kind of bit them at the end.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Syracuse last week basically gave the perfect blueprint on how you defeat Malik Cunningham. You need to get him down by multiple scores and get him to play from behind. That's how they were able to force the turnovers. That's how Syracuse was able to pile him down even more. UCF had the opportunity to do that, and the offense could not take advantage of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Also, I think a big help in regards to the passing game, though, while Cunningham and Plumlee have similar completion percentages, I think the big difference comes in the average yards per completion. Louisville has 13.9, while UCF has 8.2. Louisville was just able to get more out of their passing game than UCF could.
No, that's fair. Let's get to the questions. There's a ton of comments. Leave your comments here in the chat room. You can also tweet us questions. I know there's some of them, Bryson. I threw your Twitter handle, so you might have a busy Twitter tonight here with questions. We will try to address them all as best as we can. Let's start with Sir Epic. Great. What a great name, Sir Epic. Love that. The good. He's going to start positive, and I like that. The good, the defense. They just need to clean up tackling, in my opinion. Look, I thought the defense was fine. I actually thought their tackling is way ahead of schedule from last year. Remember last year, Bryson? We were literally doing this exact same show with Andrew, and we were just going on and on about the tackling issues in that Louisville game. I thought they actually tackled pretty well. The secondary is really good. I didn't think the pass rush was there consistent enough up front, but the secondary was able to overcome that because I think the secondary played really well. And I think this defense, for the most part, I know they're going to be disappointed with the 20 points, but I don't think the offense helped them a lot. I do think the defense was a positive, especially, they kind of gave the offense, they gave them a chance at the end. Your thoughts on the defense? I know you were pleased with the defense on a positive note.
Yeah, Cunningham at least did not run all over.
No, night and day from last year. Right.
Like granted, he did break out that 40-yard touchdown run. But one play a game does not make, at least for a performance as a unit. That was definitely a point of weakness, and I'm sure that the defensive players are going to look back on that play, and they're really and they probably might beat themselves up a little for it. But on the whole, I think they did a lot better than against Malik Cunningham than they did last time. Looking here, Jason Johnson, 12 total tackles, 9 solo tackles. Yeah. Right behind him, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, 7 total tackles. All of them were solo tackles. This time last year, we were talking about how the safeties were the ones leading the tackles, and you can't have that. So to see 2 linebackers and Jason Johnson and Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste put up those numbers were good. And I heard Walter Yates' name come up a lot more often than I thought I would hear. So I think that this linebacker group we have right now, I think is looking good, and they performed well. I think there was just those tiny moments where Louisville was just able to squeak through that allowed them to get more points in this game. And sometimes you just have those. Malik Cunningham is a very talented quarterback, and he'll have those moments. What this UCF team needed was the offense to be able to keep in touch with that.
Well, let's get into that, Sir Epic, who's done a good job of giving us show notes here. The bad play calling and special teams, too many screens and wideouts, never really attacked the center of the field. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, guys, I think John Rice Plumlee is limited on what he could throw. They discussed it a lot on the telecast. He hasn't been a quarterback in a couple of years. I don't recall, Bryson, they really attacked down the field much. They had the one play to Baker where we thought it was a touchdown. They called it back on the Swoboda hold. Yeah, I feel. But look, the special teams, man. We said this last week. We're going to say it again. You can't miss 30-plus yard field goals. They really didn't get any great returns. Think about if you make that field goal, you're up 2 possessions. Think about it. If they make a field goal, you only need a field goal in that last drive. Yeah, I understand the frustration there on both sides. No points in the second half. I think they had only 1 first down up until the 9-minute mark in the fourth quarter in the second half. They were just shut down. Louisville, you could tell, made adjustments, brought some pressure to Plumlee, and dared him to beat him in the passing game. I thought they did a good job of containing Plumlee's running game, whereas maybe UCF didn't contain Cunningham as well as they would have liked. Although, again, way much better than last year when Cunningham literally ran all over them. But yeah, look, a lot of people are going to be frustrated. I have a feeling, Bryce, we're going to get a lot of questions about the offense and the special teams throughout this show. There's no question about that. But I'm glad this was brought up, and I think it's important. Penalties. First of all, both teams, good Lord, combined for 23 penalties for 207 yards. That's just unacceptable, Bryson. Both teams just made some bad penalties. UCF, there was some that really were costly, but penalties, man, it just head scratching, Bryson. I'm just head scratching, Bryson. I don't know. I'm trying to be really PG on that. That's just not good football.
The big issue that I think I have is the fact that UCF had less penalties, one less penalty than Louisville did, but they ended up having a more penalty yardage. In my opinion, the penalty yardage is huge. And if the penalty numbers are roughly square, then it's like, okay, the penalties themselves were kind of, it's an offset. To borrow a penalty term, they offset. But the penalty yardage ended up being the big difference maker in my view, where there was more bang for your buck in a UCF penalty, and you can't have those. I mean, when that running into the kicker happened, I remember thinking, like, don't be roughing. And thank the Lord it wasn't. But then they almost got converted on the fourth down. They had another shot on fourth down, and they almost had it. I mean, the offense was frankly lucky that they got the ball back after that.
Yep. No question about that. You've got a Twitter question, you said, Bryson. Somebody has a Twitter question for us on our social media Twitter.
Yes, this one. We were talking about.
Keep it clean, Bryson.
We were talking about special teams. And so this one relates to that. This is from Philip Grant at PG bunch of numbers. Why punt from the opponent 40 when your kicker can't kick? Why try to throw the ball late in the game when your QB is throwing about 50%? Why ignore the strength of the offense, the run game? What the blank is the offensive line doing on passing plays? Why are there so many penalties? There's a lot of questions there. Let's just break down that first one.
Who's the Twitter? Wait, who asked the question? Let's give credit to whoever asked.
Philip Grant. I said at the beginning.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Let's start with that first one. Why punt from the opponent 40 when your kicker can't kick?
I'm assuming he's talking about the first half.
That I'm assuming so.
Because I know a lot of people were asking about that in the first half. I think the answer is at the time their defense was playing well, Bryson, and they're trying to play field position. You're not going to kick a field goal there. I was surprised. I mean, to me, I was okay with that. My issue was, like, I don't know what Scott Satterfield was thinking, going for it on fourth down a couple times during the game, especially in that fourth quarter from his own territory, where I'm like, what are you doing? You want to get fired? Like, are you trying to expedite this dismissal that you might have at the end of the season if the season goes south? That one I don't have in trouble. I thought the play calling was questionable at the goal line there in the last drive. I think that's valid. We'll see how Gus addressed that in the post game. As far, so the problem is when you're behind, you have to come back. Did they get away from the run? I don't know if it's hard to say they got away from the run when you consider the fact that this team ran for 206 yards in the game, which is what UCF ended up doing. I don't know about that, but no, look, it's a valid. I understand where you're coming from. I mean, clearly the passing game is not the strength of this offense. That is clear, right? Like, I think that's at least right now, anyway. So we'll see what happens with that. MG chiming in. Disappointing, to say the least. I think that speaks for everybody right now. Anybody that's listening, everybody who was at the game, anybody who was watching.
We can't even blame injuries this time.
Well, people are asking about Ryan O'Keefe. I didn't see anything. Did you see something, Bryson, that would bring up these questions? I'm sure we'll ask Kyle about this when he joins us later about Ryan O'Keefe. Did you sense something that he was hurt? I didn't sense anything.
I didn't sense anything either. Looking back at the stats, Plumlee targeted Javon Baker 12 times.
Right. And that's his go-to guy.
Right. And the thing is, though, is that he only caught the ball 5 times for 84 yards. And of those 84 yards, 22 of them were after the catch. In my opinion, Ryan O'Keefe is this team's playmaker. I understand that Baker's your go-to guy, but Ryan O'Keefe, you can see we've seen what this guy's capable of. So put the ball in his hands. I don't think I really saw any jet sweep type of play with him. He only had.
I think he had one early. But to your point, they said on the telecast that Gus's goal was to get O'Keefe 10 touches. Well, he ended up with 1 rushing carry for 27 yards, and then 4 catches in the game. Is that right?
4 catches on 5 targets. So he did not meet that at all.
I'm not including the kick returns and stuff that he did, but you're right. That's not enough. So we'll see what happens with there. Brian Peterson, a loyal UCF fan who is a great listener. Appreciate you chiming in with your question. Do we see a change at quarterback? I don't think so. And here's why. I don't think any quarterback right now will be completely successful there with this offensive line and Bryson. And let's give credit to our colleagues in Drew and Kyle Nash. They have been concerned about this offensive line for a while, and they didn't look great last week, and they didn't look great this week. And I don't think Mikey Keene can solve some of that. I understand it's a fair question, though. But I don't know that the offensive line to me is an issue. And I don't know what the solution is with the offensive line. I don't think they could protect Mikey Keene much better. I do think Mikey Keene can throw the ball obviously better, but if he doesn't have time to throw the ball, I don't know. To me, that's my big concern is this offensive line is not great right now and they're not deep. And I don't know if they're going to get better. Hopefully they do. But to me, that's the bigger issue. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I like the running game. Like the thing is that
running game wise, they're fine. But when it comes to the passing, blocking,
on the passing game, I mean, I saw Plumlee like get rid of that ball so fast on plenty of occasions that I think that gives the indication that the offensive line on the passing play isn't up to snuff. And I mean, if that's the case, I think that makes the fans' outcry of why did you go away from the run game understandable, where if your offensive line is better when you run the ball, then run the ball. Even Plumlee. Like, if Plumlee can scamper out of there. I remember on that last 4th down play, I saw like a running lane available for Plumlee to go and get the first down. And I was thinking, why didn't you go do that?
Yeah,
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, Plumlee's a running quarterback, and I feel like
But I think Louisville had some fast athletes that got to him a little bit. But I think the offensive line, especially in the passing game, is an issue. I think that's probably why we saw some screens. I don't know if that right now that the O-line could protect for a lengthy period of time. Now, if the O-line gets better and the throwing by Plumlee doesn't, then I think we could revisit that quarterback question for sure. Because I do agree with you, Brian Peterson saying passing needs a lot of work. Yeah, it does. No, I can't disagree with you at all. Amy chiming in. Amy Bachman, who's been a loyal listener and fan as well. We've been humbled. I hate it. You're not alone. A lot of people do. Fallen Hero, the base legend, chimes in. Pain, all caps. That's a good word. That's a good word, right, Bryson? You're very good with the words. You write for a living. That's your goal. Would that be the word you would use if I gave you just one word to describe this game? And for UCF fans and us and everybody, it's pain, right?
I think that's one that you can use to describe it. I think there is some other the other things that you can say to this, some that I cannot say on stream. Garrett Weiss at Strength of Spear on Twitter to use the term horrid, which I think is a little overblown a little bit, but I won't say it's not valid for some people to feel that way. I think that you could also say that we were let down. I think a lot of people were really getting behind Plumlee, and he's a likable guy. I mean, like, we want to see him succeed. So I can completely understand when, this was the moment where Plumlee was really going to get the true test in terms of being a passer. And whether it was his fault or the O-line's fault, the passing just did not hold up. I mean, I think this is honestly, Eric, the first time in a while that UCF fans have a quarterback that, that we thought that maybe the passing would be good. And it didn't. Mikey Keene, we had Milton, we had Gabriel. I'll give an excuse to Mikey Keene because he was a freshman, and I feel like lobbing too much expectations on him isn't really right. But then you have Plumlee, and you invest all this faith into him, and while I do agree that he's still the better fit in this system, I think we all put a lot more stock into his ability as a passer than what he would be able to cash in. And tonight, I think it showed us that the passing game might not be as big on this team. and it really bit us in the butt.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The questions keep on coming here. Jessica Sheldon, this loss falls on the offense, period, and special teams. Jessica Sheldon chiming in. Jim John chiming in. I'm not calling anyone out. This was a total team loss. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
I'm all for it.
There's percentages. I think the defense has the lowest percentage of blame here. The lowest percentage of blame. There's a little bit.
Fallen Hero saying 2 touchdowns, questionable penalties. Look, I mean, I'm sure we could complain about penalties all the way. It should never have come to that point. Should never have come.
I was arguing with my parents. My parents and I were sitting at home watching the game, and we were arguing about the targeting call. They were insisting that it was targeting, and I was like, no way, it's not targeting.
Well, they've made some tweaks to the rule. I understand where the parents are coming from. I was surprised they overturned it because he did lean with the helmet. There was contact with the helmet. They usually call it. However, I'm okay with the non-call because I think in Thornton's defense, what is he supposed to do there? That's my issue with the whole targeting thing. I don't like the targeting rule personally, so I'm okay with them overturning that. But I was surprised because I've seen that being called, and they could have easily kept it on the field. But we shall see how that goes. Roger Greenberg. I love the new people tuning in. That's awesome. Make sure you tune in. Every week we'll have night shift after this game, after every football game. So really appreciate this. Got to do better next week against FAU. Should have won that game, but didn't the defense try? But let me see here. But didn't the defense try? But the offense disappeared in the second half. Hashtag at UCF. Roger Greenberg chiming in there. Nelson Alumni. That holding call on Swoboda on the touchdown was BS, plain and true. We were discussing that in the group chat. Some people had an issue with that. You know what was funny about that? I thought when the flag came down, I thought they were going to call Baker for pushing off because he pushed off the defender on his back. And that's, and that's why the defender fell and Baker got loose and touchdown. I didn't see the holding. There were some ticky-tack holding calls tonight from the refs, in fairness to both teams. Because I thought Louisville got called for a couple that I thought was questionable. I thought that was questionable, but that's part of the game, man. There's one thing I won't like. It's just part of the game. I mean, this just is what it is. So anyway, that's some of the questions there. So let's see here. I'm going through. I'm trying to keep pace with the comments, folks. And I love it. Keep it coming. Keep them coming. Let's see. People Robert asking about that was a touchdown. What did you think of that 4th down play? They ruled it an interception. I don't think it was a touchdown. I don't think it was an interception. I actually think it was an incomplete pass. And actually, I think that was a significant situation because they called it an interception. It was a touchback. Louisville got the ball at the 20 instead of at the 6-yard line. If they would have called that incomplete, that ball would have been at the 6. That's, field position. That's what I thought. The problem is what they called it the way they called it. It was going to be hard to overturn. Like no matter whatever they were going to call on the field, I felt like that was going to stay, regardless of what you thought about it. What did you think seeing it live, Bryson?
I was thinking about I was honestly thinking about the simultaneous possession, that Golden Tate Seattle Seahawks catch. To be honest, I was thinking like, can we have that happen, please? But I do agree. Like I think the incomplete pass was probably the better ruling there because the UCF had the ball first. And then Louisville ripped it out, and it was all. I think there was already like kind of out of bounds. The
receiver was out of. I just don't think anybody had really possession of the ball, and it seemed like the refs just awarded the Louisville defender because he was the first to sort of have possession, but I don't think anybody had possession, and I don't think the receiver even got the foot in. Even if he got the foot in, I don't think he had the foot and possession. So I would have gone incomplete. They kept the call in the state. I don't think they saw enough to overturn anything. I think that's what happened. And usually when they don't overturn it, if they don't see enough evidence to overturn it, they just keep it with the call on the field. And unfortunately for UCF, that was called interception live on the first instincts. But again, it shouldn't have come to that. That was not a good read from Plumlee.
wasn't Johnny Richardson open on that play?
Some people said I didn't. I have to look at the game back. I'll watch the game back to see that. I'll ask Kyle. I'm curious what Kyle thinks about that. I'm sure they'll be asked about this in the post game. There, Mr. Hampton 913. What is the exact issue with the O-line and pass protection? Can we just not handle a decent pass rush? To everyone's point, they look so much better when blocking for running plays. Yeah, no, that's fair. And we're gonna ask Kyle because Kyle has been on top of this alongside Andrew Glukoff. The offensive line, for whatever reason, has not blocked well, especially when it comes to the passing game and pass protection. And I think that is part of the issue with the passing game in general. Well, I want to save that for Kyle because he's, to his credit, he was on top of this weeks ago, way before us. So we will ask him that question. Hopefully, we'll be able to connect with him after the post games are done. Nelson, 10 possessions, 0 points. Yeah, no, wasn't pretty. I hear you. Michael Rakowski, was Plumlee the best baseball center fielder on the field tonight? Oh boy, it's not. Bryson, as you know, quarterbacks always take the heat and take a lot of credit. Probably a little bit of too much on both sides, but that's unfortunate, man. The kid's a heck of an athlete. He tries hard. He just, the passing game just wasn't there. When you're behind, that's kind of an issue. Lonely Bumblebee. Yeah, he's not happy. Okay.
That's
it's a little early. It's a little early.
No. I want to address that.
You're mad at Lonely.
First of all, because I respectfully disagree, because I do not think that we suck again. The thing is that I think that we have talent here that is able to succeed, but we didn't. We're in this kind of middle ground limbo type, because I think Isaiah Bowser did pretty good tonight. I really like that wildcat formation they had going with him. I think that's a very good,
I agree,
within 5-10 yards type of play. I thought that was good.
But some people thought Richardson was the better back, and he was the more explosive back. As I look at the stats, Bowser had 15 touches. Richardson had 4 carries. I'm talking about carries. Bowser 15, Richardson 4. Richardson caught 2 passes. Is that too much, Bryson? I think some would argue that Johnny Richardson should have more than 6 touches in a football game with his explosiveness, especially because Bowser only averaged 3.5 yards a carry, did have the 2 touchdowns, but maybe Bowser should have gotten a few. Maybe Richardson should get some more touches. Either in the receiving game or in the backfield.
I think it just depends on the flow of the game. I think that both Bowser and Richardson have different roles to play on this offense. And I think it just sort of depends on the flow of the game and what way it's going. Now, if it were me, and with the benefit of hindsight, I would have put Richardson in more. I think you need playmakers in there. But at the same time, having Bowser there obviously has its benefits. And again, I bring up the wildcat formation. Bowser was perfect there. I think we want to see something more akin to the running back rotations that we saw under Frost and Heupel. I think that sort of thing really would work better with a running back duo of Bowser and Richardson. So yeah, I think that it seems like Plumlee and Bowser are the things that this offense has been really, really pushing, but I think they need to dial it back a little bit on that and be able to get past the ball around and share it enough to where everyone is able to effectively use their abilities. And they didn't get the ball to their playmakers in Ryan O'Keefe and Johnny Richardson enough, I think.
Yeah. It seems too one-dimensional. A lot of Bowser, a lot of Baker, and that's not, there should be more.
Again, it's not to say that this team doesn't suck. I don't think this team sucks at all.
People are mad. I understand the vocabulary, right? People are upset. I get it. That's a very upsetting game. I totally understand where it's coming from. Football Fan 28, just go to Castellanos now. Let him get a year of experience before we go to the Big 12. JRP isn't a quarterback, and it only hurts us going forward, because it will also hurt wide receivers. I will disagree. I don't think you could pull the trigger on Castellanos, at least not right now, maybe we can address this down the road if UCF's got a second. Or I think, to me, you don't play Castellano. I don't think that's a situation that happens unless you have an injury or you're out of the conference race. I think this team is going to go with Plumlee and Keene as far as they can.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Do we have Kyle Nash already here, folks? Tell you what, this is Night Shift. Eric Lopez alongside Bryson Turner, and joining us now from the stadium, the Bounce House, in record time, Kyle Nash joining us. Woo! Kyle, how you doing?
Hey, good to be aboard. It was a tough one to watch here tonight, but hey, credit to Drew Glukov, who's currently working hard on his knee-jerk reactions. He makes it possible for me to get over here this quick. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're here because, as you would imagine, Kyle, people are fired up and not happy. Let's address, I want to ask you this because a lot of people have been addressed. A few things have been addressed. The offensive line. And people have been asking us, why can't this team pass protect well? And I've been giving you and Drew credit. You guys have been concerned about this offensive line a long time ago.
Yeah.
For a month, 2 months? You've been calling this.
That's true.
Okay. What is the issue? People want to know, don't understand. Why is it they can run effectively running wise, but can't throw and can't protect offensive line? Give me your thoughts on the O-line, because that's one of many hot topics here tonight.
Yeah. And listen, when it comes to the offensive line, the critiques I have, there's two players on it I'm going to kind of sit off to the side as not being the problem, right? Matt Lee at center is fantastic. You know, they're on at least one of the plays that was called back for the big touchdown scores. Matt Lee's 20 yards down the field helping to open that up. And when you notice when their people are blasting through, taking care of, trying to take care of business on John Rice Plumlee in the backfield, one thing you don't see is them just blasting up the middle. Yeah, now sure, I think there might have been a play where Lee had an issue, but I don't think he's the problem there. I think it's the edges. And what's happening is the linemen are either getting overwhelmed or they're overthinking speed or whatever it is. What's happening there is, they start out on the outside. The speed might be a little bit too much for the tackles. There was certainly one play Drew and I both saw Tylen Grable just get completely stood up, pushed back 5 yards almost into John Rice Plumlee. So, those are just the kind of situations where I feel like the tackles are sitting up too tall. And then the defender, be it a linebacker blitzing or a defensive end, just comes in, gets inside and starts leveraging. They're just not dominant. The technique, I think, is not where it needs to be. I don't think they're fast enough afoot to keep up with the speed rush. And they're also getting displaced when they're overthinking, hey, I got beat by speed before, I need to get back quick. Then their technique is bad, and then it just all falls apart.
Give me your thoughts on the game. You've had a few minutes to digest it, so I get it. Give me your thoughts. There's been a lot of different topics about the play calling, topics about Rice Plumlee and throwing the football, special teams. Give me your thoughts. What's your thoughts now, having taken part in covering it in person?
Yeah, and it's with games like this, I always kind of smirk a little bit when I start hearing about fans talking about play calling. Gentlemen, my question to you is this. When you're down your top receiver, when you are in a situation where protection's an issue, you can't throw the ball effectively, and they're sending more guys and you got the block. There isn't a play call you could just pull out of the sky to fix everything. Somebody's got to step in there and handle business, which, as you saw in the fourth quarter, started to happen. Now, I know there's a lot of questions surrounding penalties and discipline and things like that. That, I think, is a far bigger problem than play calling in and out of itself. But, Eric, I'll give you this gem. To open the press conference, Coach Malzahn put a lot of stuff on himself. He felt like penalties were the issue. He felt like there were some play calls he would have liked to have had back, in his words. While I have my own opinion about people throwing play calling around, a guy who's qualified to comment on play calling, like Gus Malzahn, saying he wishes he had some back, that tells me everything.
Very interesting. Very interesting note there. What else stood out from the post game? Was the last that interception call that some people thought it was a touchdown? I thought it was an incomplete pass. Was that brought up? And what was your thoughts on that play?
No, it didn't come up, but I'll tell you from my vantage point, the only thing I can tell you clearly from the replay is that it wasn't an interception. And, it would have been very interesting if the defense, who had been doing very solid throughout the night against Malik Cunningham, I feel like that would have been a situation where they could have gotten momentum over and above getting the ball back for the offense like they did. And listen, Coach Malzahn, basically everybody on offense that was up there propped the defense. Over and above that, I think Coach Jeremiah G. Baptiste and everybody who was on the defense that stepped to the mic, including Josh Salaskar, were very satisfied with the job they did containing Malik Cunningham. Did he have that big 45-yard run for the touchdown? Sure. But listen, gentlemen, at some point, when you're punting the ball that much, a defense getting tired trying to contain a guy that Coach Malzahn is claiming is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and rightfully so, in my opinion, at least he's in consideration, right? For that to be put on the defense and be like, why didn't you stop that big play? That's too much to ask, in my humble opinion.
I agree, especially when we're going up top. I got one more, and then Bryson will got some questions for you. People have been asking us about Ryan O'Keefe. Injury-wise, was that brought up? Was there any word? What's the word on Ryan O'Keefe?
It was brought up. The reason why you didn't see him in the second half is Coach said that he was nicked up. The nature of the injury has not been revealed at this time. I'm sure they're waiting for whatever testing and whatever information they can get back, from actual medical professionals and the like. I'm sure they'll let us know more when they know it. I know they have availability with. Both coordinators tomorrow at 12:30. We might get something then, maybe. But in the meantime, we're just not sure at this point what exactly it is. I know there's some whisperings of what it might be, but as far as how Coach commented, all he said is that he was injured. Yes.
Bryson, go ahead.
It was actually the Ryan O'Keefe question I was thinking of, but I want to ask what stood out to you as far as the players, because I took a quick cursory look through the presser just to see who you had. I believe the last one was Sam Jackson, right?
Correct. Yes.
What did he have to say about the offensive line's performance today?
Yeah. Overall, he didn't comment on the offensive line's performance in depth per se, but what I am reading is that the line and the offense as a whole is putting this game on themselves. They blame themselves for it. The statement he made is that it was an offensive game and the offense feels like they lost it. I don't know that I would have called this an offensive game per se, especially when you got two mobile guys in the backfield like that. Defense had to play a role, but I think it would be hard to argue objectively that the offense did everything they could tonight to win the football game. Granted, again, 2 huge touchdowns getting called back is a huge deal. How many times I've heard Gus Malzahn say in the past 2 years that, I should say this being the second season, right, that I've been covering him, how important big plays are to getting into the end zone. But 2 of the big plays they had tonight that turned into scores now no longer on the board. So, I think the best thing to take away from Sam Jack's approach is, he wants to make sure that he and his unit take care and get aggressive in solving the problems up front.
Steve Collins chiming in. O-line was awful. Wide receivers dropping passes. Quarterbacks not making good reads. Special teams awful for the second week in a row. This is the tone we're getting here. It's going to be the tone like this all week, Kyle.
Sure.
People are frustrated right now. They're really upset.
And as they should be. Listen, this time last year, guys, these games that came down that close and the offense was knocking on the doorstep with Mikey Keene or whoever was in the game at the time ended up being wins on the schedule, right? The bounce house stepped up and, they would get loud and a difference would be made. But at the end of the day, gentlemen, unfortunately, that final part of it to get UCF to win the close game didn't happen here. This is the nature of the sport, guys, and unfortunately, again, injuries were a factor more than they, not as much as they were last year, but certainly enough to keep some of the top offensive weapons out of the game. And I would say right at the end, really quick, when I saw Bowser come off the field and limping, and then they came back out on 4th down to attempt that play on the goal line, I felt like a good place to call timeout would have been there. It felt to me like they panicked, not having Bowser in the game, and then they tried to force a situation where John Rice Plumlee was passing. Even though we all know his top element is to use his legs, the offense had been struggling passing all night. I'm not here to question people that know the game better than I do or wrote books on it or anything like that. But it is something I wonder about there.
Kyle, I wanna ask you what was sort of the attitude in the press box to some of the decision the offense made, because some people were saying that they got away from the run game a little later. So what was kind of the attitude that you and the rest of the people up in the press box were kind of seeing as the game kind of wound to a close?
I can see how in a world where offensive linemen are referred to as other than something, where everybody else is a skill player. I'm not taking that as a slur, but that's the facts of the case, right? I think what you saw a lot of in the press box was that those issues with the line. And the main reason you're not getting a lot of big plays or a lot of running plays, or you're moving away from the run, is twofold. A, the run game isn't happening to shorten field on 1st down, right? The idea of the run at the very least is to get a couple yards off the board, make 2nd and 3rd down less distance, right? And B, when the group in front of you, the defense, knows you're passing and they can send the house and know they're winning up front, there's no play call that can answer for that. Somebody's got to step up. And you saw a lot of that coming. How much zero coverage did Louisville bring tonight? And Coach Malzahn alluded to the same. There was a point where they got hot and would just send the house and kitchen sink at the UCF backfield.
I also want to ask about the first half, because people were talking about how, the Knights had an opportunity to get up on. I said in the Knights in the round table that you were on that you wrote for as well, that Syracuse provided the perfect blueprint on how to defeat Malik Cunningham, and that is to get him to play from behind. And UCF had that opportunity. They were ahead by a touchdown. They just needed to get another score, and they would get him to play from behind, which put him in a position.
Well, the missed field goal. The missed field goal, was that brought up, or Boss again missing a short 30+ yard field goal? And then another play that people have brought up here, punting the football from the 40. Some people thought, hey, why not go for it there? Your thoughts on those two sequences? I don't know if that was discussed as well in the post.
Well, the missed field goal, of course, was. I completely understand fans bringing that up. Goodness knows that it came up a lot in the press box. Certain Barsky fans that are, in the building or whatever, certainly had a few things to say about it. But at the end of the day, while obviously you want Barsky to make the kick, for my money, the real murder was the 2 long offensive plays called back. That, to my mind, really negates anything with the missed field goal. I mean, it's canceled out. Louisville missed a field goal early in the game themselves. So my money, that play in and of itself was an issue. If we want to be concerned about special teams, gentlemen, there were too many instances of butterfingers for punt return for my taste.
I agree. That's a great point. Look, we're going to play. The young man missed a kick. It's, we get all that. My criticism of the special teams is not just on the kicking game, Kyle. I've discussed this. We don't have any threats returning punts or kicks. Like, they were lucky they didn't get called for roughing the punter on that 4th down. They called it running into the kicker. The punter did kind of act, but, like, what are you doing? Like, you're playing with fire, and this special teams doesn't help this team win a game. That's the concern.
And from his mouth to your ears through me right now, gentlemen, Gus Malzahn blamed himself for a lot of stuff. He says it's his fault for that sort of play that you're talking about, for the 11 penalties. And he used the words undisciplined football team. And, that's going to certainly be the target. The typical nomenclature here would be that these guys are going to run a lot in practice Monday, right? And I definitely got that feeling from Gus. Granted, he's, a professional and a veteran coach and, knows how to handle things on the mic and all that. But I can tell there was a bit of an air of frustration from this loss like this, the way that it went, especially this being the Louisville game, the opportunity for revenge squandered, injuries being a factor. Again, I could go on and on.
Well, you brought it up. You wrote about it. They didn't hide. They wanted revenge. they didn't hide it, Kyle. You wrote about it this week on Black and Gold Banner Red early in the week as part of your preview. You discussed it on the podcast. They didn't hide it. So there has got to be, I mean, that's going to add to this disappointment because I think it's one they feel like they let get away. John Rice Plumlee, your thoughts, a lot of comments about him, your thoughts on him and moving forward here with John Rice Plumlee.
You know, while I was in the virtual green room there before I came aboard, what I will say is anybody that's calling for Castellanos already, just take a breath. In games like this, gentlemen, no matter who the football player or who the football team is, the backup quarterback suddenly becomes the most popular man in town. Let's just take it easy for 30 seconds on that. I don't know that it's a situation. If we're really talking about the offensive line being the struggle that it was, if that's really the crux of the issue, a young man in that situation isn't the answer. He would be just as flummoxed. So, and that's no disrespect on Castellanos. I'm saying it wasn't any one player that was going.
No, I don't think any quarterback could be successful in that O-line. Is this fixable, Kyle? That's my question. Is this offensive line, can it improve? You know, because the good news is the American Conference is not the strongest league this year. There's some questions there. But at the same time, this ain't going to be the best team UCF's going to see on their schedule. I mean, I think SMU, you've been on the SMU back. SMU is way more talented than Louisville. May have a better complete quarterback.
I wasn't going to bring up you picking Houston as the best team in the conference after that game, but, you know, that's another thing.
Right. I mean, you know, everybody acts like Cincinnati has a bunch of walk-ons. They nearly beat Arkansas on the road. But can this offensive line get better? Because if they can't, I'm not sure there's much they could do in the quarterback position.
Yeah. You know, the question asked is can they get better? I feel like the answer to that is yes, but can it happen in a single week? I don't know. I'll put it this way. The timing of the FAU and Georgia Tech games are fortunate. I think those are opportunities I think this is less about retooling scheme per se and getting these guys on the outside comfortable and confident again. Because after you take a loss like this, you're going to start questioning it. And it's something different when you have a human being behind you that's going to get hit hard, and it's your job to protect that. And if it doesn't happen, that's a struggle.
It's fair. It's fair. Go ahead, Bryce.
Can you elaborate on what you said about undisciplined earlier? Because I know that Eric and I talked about earlier about penalties. Mm-hmm. And so do you think that that's something that can definitely help this offensive line improve going forward?
That's a good question, Bryson. What I'm going to say is, as far as the penalties in and of themselves, and listen, this is the one knock I have on the defense's performance tonight personally. I mean, maybe there's one more third down they could have stopped here or there or something like that. But for my money, if we're going to talk about discipline being the issue, in the third quarter, 3 straight Louisville drives opened with 15-yard penalties against the defense. Now, that kind of thing is what happens before momentum is gained and a score occurs, right? The 10-0 point total in the third quarter, 2 of those drives I mentioned that were started by defensive 15-yard penalties ended up being what put Louisville ahead in the third quarter.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's. I got to see if I could put this up here for the visual audience. Jason Beatty, who we hope, by the way, feels better, did not cover the game in person, tested positive for COVID. He's back home. Watched the game, though, and that doesn't mean he stopped working. I'm gonna read what he wrote here on his Twitter. UCF's final 10 drives of the game against Louisville included 1 missed field goal, 7 punts, 1 interception, 1 turnover on downs, Kyle.
Yeah, and to Beat's credit, I was looking at his feed out the corner of my eye. He was recording that when they went 4 punts straight. So yeah, I mean that trending towards the end of the game in a close game is going to make the difference. I can't put it any better than that. That's how you take that for data. That's what I'll say, gentlemen.
Take it for data. Let's see here. What other comments we got here? Bryce is like looking for more. He's looking for more comments here. Keep it coming. Kyle's ready for it. He's taking it.
All right. I have one that
before you go, Bryson, I just want one thing I want to request from the Black and Gold Banneret crew: an apology for mocking me, saying that Louisville could be a loss for this group.
I didn't mock you.
No, it wasn't.
No, I agree with
Eric.
you. I agree with you.
Is that Drew? Are you calling out Drew?
Well, I might be more referring to another editor on the staff, but
right,
I don't want to be.
No, look, it's no, you did, and you did have more. You, in fairness, you had the most questions about this team going into the season, probably than any other media person in the market. And to your credit, most of those have been justified. And they're still justified through 2 games. Now, I don't think the season's over.
Let me bring some positivity, Eric.
Yeah.
Let me bring some positivity in one thing. The linebackers did do, in my mind, a fantastic job.
Yes.
And I'm taking nothing from that. That was where I was worried. And listen, I know there's the one big 45-yard play that was after what I think that might have been the 4th or 5th punt in a row. Defense was starting to get tired covering a world-beating quarterback with his feet, But I have to also comment that containment, Malik Cunningham being held to under 100 yards for as much as they were relying on him running, in my mind, like I say, held to 100 yards, other than that big play, let me say, that in my mind is what you were looking to do when you came out.
Kyle, what's next for this team? Where does this team go from here? What needs to be addressed? You mentioned the offensive line is going to take time. But they got a week, and people are commenting. What's frustrating is this team had 2 days less than Louisville. Louisville played the late Saturday night game at Syracuse. UCF played Thursday night. Man, this stings, especially at home. Even though they lost twice, a lot of people are like, hey, they haven't lost a game when there's been a packed house in the stadium, right? Because the 2 losses at home in 2020, it was about 15-20% capacity. That's out the window. Night game, revenge and all that. Where does this team go from here now? They got to kind of turn the page and get ready for a trip to Boca against FAU. What do you see here? What needs to be addressed here, and where do they go from here, basically?
I don't think I could put it better than Coach did. He mentioned that the way that you move forward is you turn this game into a lesson, right? You take what you can, and I think I don't want to speculate or intimate too much, but I think there's a concept here that maybe there was an element that discipline wasn't being taken as seriously as it needed to be. Maybe the idea is that they were a little too hyped for this game, possibly. That I'm not sure of. I don't want to speculate too much. But one thing that is true, learning the lessons that need to be learned, remembering that football is a mental game is going to be what you have to do here. And like Sam Jack said, basically as his take-home point for what the offense needs to do, it's one thing to react like your back is against the wall, kind of like, I have the mural behind me, right? Like your back is against the wall. But Sam Jack wanted to see this offense attack the problem and take responsibility and get after it. And, I'll put it this way. If they struggle like this against FAU, you got a longer-term problem, obviously.
I have a question for the both of you.
Go for it.
I'm looking at Twitter right now. And our old friend Luke Saris posted his final thoughts on the game, and there's one of them that I don't think we really talked about a lot that I'd like to get your opinions on. Sure. Amongst things like the special teams being the liability and the O-line, one really catches my eye, and he said Gus needs to be better at adapting his calls as the game progresses. I don't know. I've heard some complain on play calling, but
that's just armchair nonsense, like playing the result. Okay, that drives me freaking nuts. Now, go ahead, Kyle, because
I'll add this to it. I mean, I kind of understand the settlement or sentiment right there, but I'll kind of meet that comment in the middle with this. If you had questions as to why more of the running back core was utilized, that's fair. To be honest, if we're still talking about protection, by the way, Bowser's health status is an issue because, gentlemen, he made some fine blocks, being not only a fullback for John Rice Plumbing on designed runs, but picking up blitzes, he did an excellent job doing that in support of the O-line. If he's not there adding that support, that's a whole other problem for the protection to deal with. But if it's a situation where you're looking for multiple backs, more of a committee to handle business, maybe getting a little bit more Johnny Richardson in the game, that standpoint, if that's the motivation behind the comment, I can sort of understand that. Coach Malzahn was asked about that. His answer was very succinct. You know, did you ever consider getting other guys in the game with touches? I'm paraphrasing the question, but his response was no. Isaiah Bowser is an NFL running back, and I was prepared to use him. Our other running backs are very competent. Richardson's an explosive guy, but Isaiah Bowser is our guy. He is an NFL caliber quarterback, and I can see where he's coming from because of all the backs in the backfield, gentlemen. He's probably the most versatile among them that can do literally a little bit or more of everything.
Right, the complete package there. And again, Roman Madrid chiming in, who I believe is the former UCF relief pitcher. Roman, can you confirm you are the former great setup man for Joe Rogers at UCF Baseball 2012? Chiming in, offense and defensive lines were just overmatched.
I can't agree with that on the defensive line at all. That's just a complete disrespect.
Even in the second half, a little bit there.
I mean, goodness, how give him a little credit for being gassed.
That's why. Yeah.
Pull up BD's tweet real quick. 7 punts, was it? I mean, listen, at some point, and by the way, even after all that, in the fourth quarter, they gave the ball back to the offense twice.
Nobody, the defense, to me, if you give up 20 points, you should win this game.
And I would argue they had the chance to give up less than that. Granted, Louisville had a missed field goal, but listen, how many big plays that made it to the red zone were turned away for merely kick points instead of touchdowns? That's defense handling business. Malik Cunningham, for the most part, only had one big play running. That's the defense.
Yeah, no, look, the defense is way better than last year. Their secondary is really good. You mentioned the linebackers. I was worried about the linebackers. They kind of stood their holes. Were they perfect? No, but that's not the reason they lost the game.
And Anthony Montalvo on top of that, right? 2 TFLs in the first half.
Right.
After saying in the press for Monday that he felt like his technique was sloppy in the SESU game, steps up, makes plays two tackles to set up a fourth down, and an excellent TFL to set up a third and long that both ended up back in the hands of UCF. And I'm not going to even mention Josh Shatlaskar, as big as he is, finding a way to force Malik Cunningham as a superior athlete out of bounds. I just can't sign off on that part.
No, I agree. Any last questions for Kyle, Bryson? Because the man still has a lot of work to do, and he's been on the – I feel like we've been burning with a hot seat here. We're just throwing flames. Everybody's upset. And just Kyle's a pro. He covers the Jaguars on the side. He's accustomed to this.
As much as I've played therapist for you and Jeff Eric, at the end of the day, I am happy to play therapist for the Knight Nation right now.
We all need it.
I want to ask then, Mr. Therapist, is the season over? I guess in the sense because Louisville, last season, now I don't believe this.
That's a new generation there, Kyle. Post 2017, baby,
are going to think about that. I mean, last year's Louisville game, I feel like it was more of like a battered and bruised. We were just kind of too shell shocked, especially from the injuries. But this time, injuries weren't really as big a factor as they were, and we still lost. So what can we say? What do you think some good expectations for the rest of the season are going forward now?
Yeah, Mike Peterson has asked that question earlier in the show. Does this change the expectations? A lot, your thoughts, Kyle.
Well, and that depends on what your expectations are, right? There are some on our panel in our previews on the Black and Gold banneret that had UCF going undefeated and winning the conference. There's some that had them going 10-2 and still making a bowl, battling an ACC opponent. That last one being somebody incredibly dapper wearing a tie. But what I will get at is, if your expectations were the Cotton Bowl, okay, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to plan something else in December. But listen, it's not like UCF can't compete for a conference championship appearance or win. It's not like UCF is out of the running outright to make a bowl game or anything like that. I still see just
they can still win the league. This is a non-conference loss, but there's work to do. I think what's clear though, this team has a lot of work to do. It's a work in progress team, and it's going to be interesting to see, can they improve, or are some of the concerns not, can they not improve on that? Are they not fixable? I think that's the question, but certainly the season's not over yet. I always believe a season's not over until like a second or a third loss. Once you're out of the conference race, then you can discuss. But there are more. I think we have. It's funny, Kyle. I thought, usually I even said in the preseason, I thought we would have some answers after the Louisville game. And as it turns out, we probably still have more questions than ever before.
Sure. And I'll give the fans this much credit. When the backdrop is LSU losing to FSU, when the backdrop is Florida beating Utah within the state, UCF fans are going to be hurt a little bit more by this loss. And I completely understand it.
Yeah, well, we're going to let Kyle go here because he's still got the night ahead of him. Although, can we just, for the audience watching on our YouTube channel, can you show off the background here? Because I know this is the work of our friend of the show, Aaron Evans, I believe. With
that's
latest
correct.
Correct? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of his. I'll do the best I can with my limited camera work here. But it's one of the space game murals there, as you see. And, of course, a little nitro action behind me. If I can get his face. There he is. And then over there we have the Orion constellation there. They're probably doing a horrible job at this. I'm here to talk, not to take photos. That's all
right.
But
it's live, baby.
Today, yeah, that's definitely one of the earlier ones compared to some of the new work he put up. And the idea is for me to kind of rotate around and find other murals in the background, just because they make excellent backdrop. What can I say? Not as cool as Bryson walking in the end zone, but that's a whole other question.
Hey, I mean, at least we were able to. You didn't get cut off audio wise like I did. The bounce house, I always like to jest that the bounce house is where Wi-Fi and internet connection go to die. And so considering that you managed to connect very well and audio wise, there was very little disruption. I would consider, especially in back-to-back weeks, I would consider that an absolute win.
There you go. Kyle's a pro at this. This is why we have him on. Tell the audience what you're working on, and how was Drew tonight in the press box? Was he?
Drew was a kid in a candy store. He loved being back up there. Drew and I both very happy to work together for the first time in a few years. Before the pandemic, for a different outlet, we were working and covering UCF games together, and then the black and gold banneret was smart enough to scoop us both up eventually, and we were just excited to work together again. So it was a lot of fun. I'm sure he would have rather covered a win, but at the end of the day, a fun time all the way around.
And what do you got working on? What are you working on?
Well, I still got a lot of action here. As you mentioned, Eric, I got work to do to get the pressers up onto the YouTube page, Black and Gold Banneret. Of course, please subscribe so you can see when I deliver those goods, and you can check that out. And of course, if you want to confirm all the theories I wrote, you can check that out on the blackandgoldbanneret.com. And Eric, I haven't gotten to it yet, but I hear you and Drew had a very interesting conversation surrounding college expansion. So I have that on the list. Unfortunately, day job and children have prevented me from seeing this lightsaber duel, but I'm ready to comment on next week's podcast.
Boy, that's what I want to hear. More expansion talk. Why not? Lovely. Kyle, always a pleasure, sir. Great work out there, man. You and Drew knocking it out, and appreciate you coming on so quick. I think it's record time. I think you broke Brian Murphy's 2020 record of coming now out on the night shift postgame show.
Well, I'll put it this: I just needed the first week to get settled and get right, and it all worked out. And again, credit to Drew for handling the stuff with the knee-jerk reaction. That'll be coming soon. Look out for that on the blackandgoldbanneret.com as well. And gentlemen, till next time, an honor, joy, and privilege. Look out for the tweets, the YouTube posts that are coming. But until then, class dismissed.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Nash. Only the way he can walk it off.
I love that outro. I absolutely love it.
I know you do. All right, let's. This is Night Shift. Eric Lopez alongside Bryson Turner. Kyle Nash just joined us. We're going to play the Gus presser here momentarily. I'm getting it set up. We're going to play that here for those that may have missed it. Kyle alluded to some of the comments that Gus Malzahn had in the postgame press conference. Let's go to it here momentarily. and show you what listen to what Gus Malzahn had to say following this tough 20-14 loss.
Obviously, extremely tough loss. We came out of the game playing well. We were in control of the game at halftime. Had some momentum. Third quarter, we came out and did nothing really offensively at all. We did have the long touchdown was called back for a hold. I think that was the second of the game. Our defense did a good job at the end. They gave us a chance. We just didn't get in the end zone down there. I think we had 2 opportunities late, and we were down by 6, and we just didn't seize the moment. But obviously, tough deal. They just challenged us. They just rolled everybody down, played zero coverage to stop the run, and dared us to throw it. We lost Ryan O'Keefe, I guess, right there before halftime. He has an injury. It's tough right now. I just told our guys we're going to have to grow from this, have to learn from this. It's not the end of the world as far as our season goes, but it feels like crap right now. Questions?
What did you see from John Rice Plumlee in his second start?
Yeah, I mean, he's battling. You got to understand, he hadn't played quarterback in 2 years, and they threw us some different looks, and we had a couple little miscommunication things and all that. But he's a great competitor. He's going to be fine. He'll bounce back.
Coach, first and goal at the 9. Take us through that series of plays and what you chose to do down there.
Yeah, that was we did a poor job there. There's no doubt. We had a naked right there, and then we came back and had one of our better runs out of the Wildcat, and then we tried to pace the inside zone, which obviously didn't work out right there. And then we had our little naked, give our quarterback an opportunity to get outside, and has a couple of different options, and obviously it didn't work out. So anytime that doesn't happen, I mean, that's poor play calling the way I look at it, and I'll take responsibility for that.
Coach, going into this game, you were expecting Malik Cunningham to be a force that you have to watch for. How do you think the defense did against him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he had the one real long run, but I thought overall, besides the one run, I thought we did a good job. He's a handful. There's no doubt about that. Defense gave up some yards, but, the thing that stands out to me when the game was on the line, they got the ball back to the offense, and the offense, we just didn't score.
What's the status of Kobe Hudson, who didn't play in the game, and then Ryan O'Keefe, who obviously didn't finish the game?
Yeah, Kobe Hudson is not available. He's taking care of some personal things. And then obviously Ryan O'Keefe is obviously everybody knows how valuable he is. And then when they play you zero coverage, and we didn't have a lot of answers.
Coach, what was going on that you said you did nothing in the third quarter? Their defensive line just seemed to be dominating.
Yeah, they did. There's a couple of calls that I'd like to have back too. They were just, like I said, they just brought everybody down, played zero coverage, extra guy, got a little we tried to come out in a little stack spot, got some yards, try to double move off that. Didn't work out great. And then it was just one of those deals that we'd try to run the ball and we get 1 or 2 yards and get behind the sticks. And it was just, it was a tough third quarter, but we did have the touchdown, which, obviously in a game like this, like when you have 2 touchdowns called back, that's the tough pill to swallow. But bottom line is we got to own it. We got to do better, and we got to look at the film. We got to correct whatever happened.
10 penalties last week, 11 this week. What do you have to do to clean those?
Yeah, well, that's on me. I'll tell you right now, we got an undisciplined team right now. We have 11 penalties for 111 yards, and I got to do a better job, obviously. That's not acceptable, and we got to correct that.
Coach, when you talk about the 3 possessions when we were in the plus side of the field at that first half, right after the fumble that we got, we were on the plus side of the field and got 0 points. I think we gave the ball back, had a missed field goal.
We had a missed field goal. I think we were up by 7. We got down there, we were really close. We almost had a catch down there really close, and then we had a 33-yard field goal. We missed it, and anytime you miss close field goals, it gives them momentum, and it kind of went back. But we had an opportunity to really distance ourselves there during that time of the game, and we didn't do it.
You had 3 starters back in the interior, and you had 2 experienced transfers at the tackle spot. So what's been the biggest challenge as far as meshing and pass protection?
Yeah, they were bringing extra guys. Like I said, they were just playing 4 guys man to man, and they were blitzing the house. And so some of those is on the call. It's not on the lineman. Obviously that group is going to learn. They're going to get better the more they play together. And I still think we're going to be a good offensive line.
Gus, was there any point in the second half that you thought about maybe lifting John Rice from Mikey at some point, just to maybe give it an interject?
No, I didn't think that.
Johnny Richardson, 5 carries. What do you have to do to get the ball in his hands?
Yeah, he's dynamic. There's no doubt. We got to figure out ways to get him the ball. You had the long throw back on the screen. Obviously, he can do some things and did a good job. We got to get the ball in his hands.
Coach, what does a loss like this do for your team moving on for the rest of the
Well,
season?
you know, what needs to happen is it needs to be a wake-up call that we correct the things that we do, come together, and finish this thing. I mean, you know, we got a lot of season left. I still think we got a good football team. Matter of fact, I know we do. And so we're going to have to learn from this. We got to put it behind us, and we got the rest of the season. I really think we're going to finish strong. And matter of fact, I'm very confident we'll finish strong.
What's the best part about the defense tonight?
What's that?
What's the best part about the defense tonight that you like?
You know, they played hard. I mean, they played hard. They did a good job. Probably the best thing that happened is they gave the ball back to the offense twice when, you know, in the second half, we got short fields, I guess, on both of them. They went for it on fourth down. They stopped them, you know, and we couldn't get the ball in the end zone.
Coach, I know the running back room was one of our strongest points kind of coming into the season. Do you kind of see some of those running backs, like maybe like a RJ Harvey or Mark Anthony Richards, maybe getting some touches to kind of spell, you know, Bowser with the 15 carries today?
No, Bowser's an NFL running back, and Johnny Richardson, I need to find ways to get him the ball more. I mean, RJ's a really good running back. Mark is too, and but that's the guys we went with tonight. And, you know, both those guys are really, really good running backs, so that's the hard part. But the other guys are good running backs in their own right too.
You expected Louisville to have a backs against the wall mentality. Is that the same kind of message you plan to deliver to your team going to Boca, or is there going to be something different?
I mean, you know, like I said, just we got to be men about it. We got to deal with the situation, and we got to bounce back. And I'm confident we'll do that.
Coach, you talked about seizing the moment this offseason, despite the loss. Is that still the message to the guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we had an opportunity tonight. We didn't do it, but that's just one game. And what do we got? 10 left, and you know we got a lot of really good football players, and we're going to finish.
Back on John Rice Plumlee, what do you need to see him do better next week at FAU?
You know, I think just overall, you know, administering the game and the communication and all that. He's a great competitor. And like I said, I think we got to be real with ourselves. He hadn't played quarterback in 2 years, and so he'll continue to improve, and that's what he'll do.
All right, that was Gus Malzahn's press conference a little bit ago. Took that one on him there, Bryson. Really respect that. He takes a lot of the blame, he says, and I thought even that last comment was interesting. He's like, we got to be real. He hasn't played quarterback in a while. Sounds to me like Gus is going to be thinking about a lot of things he could have wished he would have done differently, as Kyle alluded to. It's a tough one, man. This industry is tough. This sport, a handful of plays here and there to decide games, and it's tough to be a coach there, man. He's going to probably not sleep well, and he's going to be thinking about how to get this football team back on track and how they can improve.
Oh, yeah. Gus, I'm really glad that Gus Malzahn is the coach of this program, because I think that there isn't a coach that I would describe that's more genuine and upfront about things that he is, and willing to take responsibility. I mean, it's almost like he's a more mellowed version of Mike Gundy when he in that famous "I'm a man" press conference. I can take it, and Gus took it tonight, and I think that's all we can. And I think that that's a very admirable thing to do, to kind of take that on him. And yeah, I think that there's a lot for him to ruminate on. Plumlee is a very good point. He hasn't played quarterback in a while. I think maybe his performance last week was good, but stepping it up competition wise, I think that, you know, he hasn't played a quarterback against this kind of competition in a while. So I think that certainly is a valid point to be brought up.
All right, so those are the thoughts on the football team there. They lose 20-14. Bryson, real quick, we're going to wrap up this show, but I want you to give us I want to end on a positive note. Not easy considering the football result, but there were a couple of positives. You were at volleyball. You covered UCF volleyball today against UNCW, men's soccer out west. Give us a quick thoughts there on both of those teams and how they fared, real quick.
Well, the volleyball team swept UNC Wilmington to start off their weekend of the UCF Invitational. McKenna Melville got 15 kills, though she also got an ace, which puts her 10 aces away from the top 10 all time. So McKenna Melville, one of the greatest volleyball players in UCF volleyball history, just continuing to put on more onto her resume. So if you're want to go around campus, Miami is there. They're going to be playing tomorrow. Then on
that is Saturday for depending on when you're listening. That'll be Saturday. UCF will play Miami Saturday night. Sunday they host UIC, who upset Miami on Friday night, by the way. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yes, that's right. I keep forgetting that we did this. I'm talking live right now. So, and then as far as the men's soccer point, it was a back and forth game. I had it up on ESPN Plus on another screen while I was watching the game. They played out in Irvine, California against UC Irvine, and the guys ended up taking the win 3-2. It was basically back and forth where UCF got the first goal with Luca Dorado. Then Irvine responded. Luca Dorado got another goal. It's his third goal on the season. Then Irvine got it again in the 54th minute. And then defender Mael Hayes managed to pick up the game-winning goal in the 77th minute. So the goal scoring all around in that game. And now they get their first win of the season, and they're going to be opening conference play, but they go into conference play 3-1 with that one loss coming against a ranked number 15 Wake Forest. I would say they end on conference play on a pretty nice note.
Check out Bryson. Where can they follow you, Bryson?
They can follow me at It's Bryson Turner on Twitter.
And he'll be following volleyball all weekend. He'll be following women's soccer. They're at North Carolina on Sunday. Carolina ranked number 2 in the country. That's a big match there. He'll be covering all of that. And then obviously blackandgoldbetterred.com will have all the latest on football as well as they try to put this behind them. Check out Andrew Glukoff's knee-jerk reaction on blackandgoldbetterred.com. I have a feeling he's going to have a lot of things to say. And I'm intrigued to listen, and we'll see how that goes. And then obviously we'll get you set for the FAU football game. It'll be Saturday night, September at 7:30, CBS Sports Network game. We'll have night shift on that. We'll have night shifts after every UCF football game. We'll have you get you set like nobody else does. We'll get you pre-games. We'll get you the podcast every week. We'll get you set for that football game and throughout the year. Thanks to everybody that has chimed in with a ton of questions tonight. I know this was a painful night, a painful game to watch. I think we all feel it, but I feel like we talked it out. And I think that's always a positive. That's why we're here for you. And look, I mean, that was painful for me, painful for Bryson, painful for everybody. But long season to go. We'll see if they bounce back here. You know, they lost last year to Louisville. They still had a 9-win-plus win season. We'll see if they can, improve on some areas and, get back on track against FAU on that. So, again, follow us at blackandgoldbetterred.com on the site. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can check these shows out if you want to get notified on the YouTube, on our social media, on the Twitter. Where's our Black and Gold Banneret Twitter there, Bryson?
It'll be at UCF Banneret _SBN. We are definitely trying to grow the follower count on that account.
We're on Instagram as well. On Instagram, Kyle and Kyle, I believe, are running the Instagram, and then on our Facebook as well, on our Facebook page, where this show also aired on our Facebook. We air the show on Facebook. You can catch it there, or on Twitter, or on the YouTube channel. YouTube channel, you want to subscribe because we have all the post-game coverages, not just for football, the post-game press conferences, but men's soccer, women's soccer, volleyball, you name it. We have it all there. Plus, we're going to have some interviews, exclusive interviews coming up in the near future that Bryson and I are working behind the scenes on. You also have a lot of, we leave it as that. It's a surprise. We're working on it. We will keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Thanks to Kyle Nash for joining us from the stadium. Thanks to you, Bryson. Good job, Bryson.
Hey, thanks very much. I'm glad to be on with you guys on night shift, and Drew has his rightful place back in the press box once again. Hey, it was nice subbing in for him last week. It was amazing to be at the game, but this, I'll tell you what, I definitely missed talking with you for a little more at length after the game on this, and also not be in danger of having my audio cut off.
There you go. Good audio there. That's Bryson Turner. I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift. Charge on.